Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited because we have Georgia State Senator Greg Dolezal. I hope I'm not destroying that last name. I love it, by the way. It is so great to have you here, Senator. Welcome to the show.
Professor, doctor, I don't even know the proper title, but esteemed host, fantastic to see you.
Yeah, man. I have so many questions to ask you, and I just can't wait to jump right into it. Please call me Nez. All my friends call me Nez. So this Senate hearing with Fani Willis, I just have to tell you, were you just as aghast and surprised about the way that she just kind of walked in there looking like like she was going to a grand ball Jay-Z concert, and then, there's all these rumors about her Louis Vuitton purse that cost $12,000. Like, why would you go to court with a purse that expensive? It's all over X. I've been talking about it with my audience. I mean, what was your impression of her demeanor, her attitude, her approach? I mean, is there anything, I can only imagine what was going on in your head.
Well, it was crazy. So first of all, it was 65 degrees in Atlanta yesterday. So I have no clue I don't know what she was thinking. I know from seeing her testify in the courtroom with Ashley Merchant and that whole deal, she's a lunatic. And the thing that I kept thinking was like, this is a person that makes decisions as to whether or not people get locked in the cage. And to have that temperament, really that entire disposition, that worldview where you're the hero in your own mind, everybody's out to get you, you're the best DA in the Southeast. I mean, the level of narcissism was completely off the charts. I was ready. I was ready for the unexpected. I was not ready for the level of cringe that she brought into that room yesterday. She was just unhinged.
100%. This is why I loved your X post that you posted earlier today that I've already kind of shared, and I love it that you're like, man, wasn't she unhinged? I mean, I think you handled yourself. I was so surprised, and I even posted this too. I was like, oh my gosh, because I was talking to some people behind the scenes who are heavily involved in this case, so I can't mention their names. I was like, man, like she's like treating this like she's like, this is like a PR campaign, that she's there to clear her name. She was disqualified. Ashley Merchant, who we've had on the show, God bless her. She's amazing. She's honest. She has integrity. She's one of the stalwarts of the legal community, as you know, Greg, Senator. I mean, I was like, you've already been disgraced in front of the whole country. The trial, the charges were a complete sham. You were disqualified. The case was finally logistically dismissed. That's not what this hearing was about, was it?
No, I mean, this hearing was to get to the bottom of what happened, what state funds were used, what the money was used for. I've seen different accounts and different opinions. People are like, why didn't you, put her in her place? This is a hearing of the Georgia State Senate. She completely disrespected the institution of the Senate. I did my best to stick to the topic at hand, get the questions answered. She didn't want to answer any question. It was shocking. She knows nothing about the finances of her office, but she's talking about to the penny what Chris Carr, our Attorney General in Georgia, has spent on lawyers. She knows everything about everybody else, but she's never seen a billing voucher in Fulton County. She has no idea how much she spent on the Trump prosecution. She doesn't know how much money she gets from the county, how much money she gets from the state. She doesn't know the difference between the allowed uses of state forfeiture funds or federal forfeiture funds. She didn't know that she spent over $100,000 paying Nathan Wade with state forfeiture funds. She testified earlier in the hearing that everything that she does goes through the county. Her little self-righteous rant about not having a credit card. That was a setup, that question, because I wanted to establish that early, because when we started talking about critical mention, this media tracking expense, that was paid with some secret account. And it was signed by Dexter Bond. She didn't know the sources of funds. She didn't know the balance in that account. She didn't know when that account is used versus the county account that she said was the one that's always used. So it was a mess. And yeah, she came in and look, what she did was indefensible.
Right.
There's this old saying with lawyers, right? If you can't argue the law, argue the facts. If you can't argue the facts, argue the law. And if you can't argue either, just pound the table and yell. And that's what she was doing.
Yeah, I wanted to get your comment on, I just wanted to share, if it's okay with you, Senator, I wanted to share a couple of clips.
Mr. Wade has certainly was served as a prosecutor before this. He also has worked as a criminal defense attorney, and I believe he has defended RICO cases.
As far as you know, he had not prosecuted.
I didn't need him for that. That's why I get to make the selection and not you.
Has he ever prosecuted any felonies? So you referenced him prosecuting cases. My understanding, this is the first felony case that he was on the prosecutor side for. Is that accurate?
I'm not sure if that's accurate. I know I believe he did some work for the Attorney General, although the Attorney General never tries as many cases as my office. But different people are needed for different things. And the people of...
Wait a minute. Okay, am I crazy, Greg? Hold on a second. I have to jump in here. Here's the thing. She said... So, Greg, she goes, that's not what I needed him for. You said, has he ever tried a RICO case? And she goes, wasn't the whole charge a RICO charge against Trump? And she goes, well, that's not why I needed him. What does that mean? How is that possible?
Great follow-up. If I was a little quicker witted, I might have said, what did you need him for? But that's right outside the court of the Senate.
I mean, that was like you literally asked her straight up. So he hasn't tried any federal prosecutions, and then she says, well, I think maybe he did in the past. Isn't this all about that you hired somebody who was underqualified, who had no business being there because he was your lover? It's like, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, what's going through your mind, Greg, when she says that's not why I needed him, and this is why the people of Fulton County elected me? Are you thinking in your head, man, we got her, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I knew the answer to that question before I asked it. We know that Nathan has never prosecuted a felony. We know he's never prosecuted a RICO case. We know that he was overseeing people who were far more experienced than he was. He was around before she was elected and part of his transition team. The people have testified that this relationship was romantic and intimate well before they now allege that it was. And so, look, I think there's a valid question as to what happened, and I think we all have our reason for suspicion as to whether or not they were accurate. I don't buy the bag of money story that there's just all this cash flowing around personally, but we knew the answer to the question. We knew that he was unqualified. The block billing is shocking. I've in my business had to hire lawyers for various things. They bill to the 10th of an hour. I mean, they're tracking every 6 minutes. And I'm glad they do, because they're expensive.
Right.
Every single bill for $700,000 from Nathan Wade was an even hour bill. I put up on the screen, you probably saw this, but side by side, Ms. Cross's invoice on the same case, same person that they're billing, Fulton County District Attorney's Office. She was billing to, this is 1.4 hours, 1.25 hours, 1.7. Wade bills for a phone call, and it's an entire 8-hour day. I mean, it's just, it doesn't pass the smell test. She claims she never saw the invoices. She didn't know who approved the invoices. I mean, she's clueless as to the operation of her office. It's just a stunning level of incompetence.
Or willfully selective about what happens in her office. I want to share this clip too, real fast. Senator, just to get your kind of thought on this. This is when you actually confronted her about Nathan Wade, and she pulled the race card here. I want to get your thoughts. This is just a quick clip.
Allowed Mr. Wade to bill 160 hours a week, and then Mr. Wade would be the first one in the office making sure that my staff arrived. He corrected their behavior. They thought that 8:30 meant 8:30. He taught them that 8:30 means 7:45. He got there before them. He left after him. He taught them how to do this case, and he was a leader to that team and a public servant. And for that, him, like me, has been threatened thousands of times. You want something to investigate as a legislature? Investigate how many times they've called me the N-word. Why don't you investigate that? Why don't you investigate them writing on my house? Why don't you investigate the fact that my house has been swatted? If you want something to do with your time that makes sense, and you can use all this in your campaign ad, you attacked Fani Willis. What have you done, sir? Nothing.
For you to the screen.
I mean, like, how is that appropriate? I don't understand. How is that? How does that help her?
This is an entitled human being who refuses to look at herself and understand that she created this mess. The odor of mendacity is the result of her own decisions. She refuses to take accountability for her own decisions. And I just had to smile because she got through with that rant, and I just got to the next question.
I gotta be honest with you. After initially, Senator Dolezal, I was kind of like, man, they're letting her take over. But you know what? And I know you probably got some comments, other comments like that. But you know what? Now that I kind of, after a little retrospect and a little critical assessment, I actually think it's kind of like that old Sun Tzu saying, when your enemy's making mistakes, don't interrupt them. And you know what, Senator Dolezal, I think you did an amazing job, because if it were me, this is why I don't do this. If it was me, Greg, I would have been like, you know what? I got something to say to you, Miss Cash Money G.
Yeah. And I was close to that a couple of times, but in the moment I said, she's making a fool of herself. Let her continue to unravel.
I love that.
The facts are not on her side. But think about this for a second, Nez. She just got into a massive level of detail.
Yeah.
When Wade showed up, when Wade left, what the leadership was like. But she doesn't know about his phone call with the White House. She doesn't know about the travel, the whole entire emissary that her office sent to meet with the J6 committee. The level of amnesia, and I put some of this up on the screen from Wade's deposition with Congress. He said, I don't recall, something like 55 times. And they get into and specifically ask, I've been to the White House one time in my life. I can tell you who I met with. I can tell you what we talked about. I can tell you the duration of time. I can tell you what the weather was like the day that I walked in the building, because it's a big deal. Nathan Wade was a small town lawyer, a mid-sized town here in Georgia. This is not a man who's been to the White House 50 times. This is not a man who's been on the phone with the White House, 150 times. This is a man that the first communication, I'm assuming, that he's ever had with that high level of government was on this case. And you remember those details.
100%.
Unless you don't want to.
I love the way you said that. Yeah. I mean, there is no doubt in my mind, especially, you talked about the whistleblower. We had Amanda Timpson on our show last year. She is in direct, she's such a microaggressor, control, management, micromanager. There is not one facet of her office that she is not deeply invested in and understands. That is all just selective. As a matter of fact, I'll just say it right now, Senator Dolezal, I didn't believe a word she said in any hearing. The one last year with the odor of mendacity, the disqualification, and this one, I didn't believe a word of it. Okay, I want to talk to you about this. So you said in your post on X, because this is absolutely huge. I think our audience wants to know what's going to happen now. So you said Fani Willis's chaos was intentional. Strip it away and the facts are stunning. Coordination with the J6 committee, White House calls the day Jack Smith was appointed, political conflicts with Burt Jones's opponent, and taxpayer dollars tracking her own media hype. Before I ask you a couple of questions, was there a reason? Because I know Bill Cowsert was involved in a lot of the other Senate hearings. Was there a reason that he wasn't there, or was that issued public, or is that not?
I announced at the start of the hearing, he had a medical procedure and was unable to travel. And Bill's a 30-plus year attorney, incredibly capable. If you've watched the former deposition.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very smart. Frankly, in some ways, it would have been better if he was there. I got wind of this just a couple of days before the hearing and went into a cave to prepare and kind of put this.
I think you did great. I
appreciate that. But yeah, Bill, I'm not a lawyer. And so, but I do understand data, and I do understand when I'm looking at something and things like this. November 18, 2022 date is very, very important.
Yeah. Talk about that.
Yeah. So 8-hour phone call between Wade and the White House, 8 hours.
Wow.
And I posted some of this just a few minutes ago on X. I posted the bill on one side. I posted Wade's deposition on the other side. And the entire line of questioning, who did you meet with? I don't recall. Were there other people on the line? I don't recall. What did you talk about? I don't recall. I don't recall. I don't recall. Why is November 18th important? November 18th, two significant things happen. First and foremost, Merrick Garland appoints Jack Smith as the special prosecutor to go after Trump. Secondly, there's a guy by the name of, I believe it's Michael Colangelo. And at that day, it's reported he announced his resignation as the third man in charge at the Department of Justice. And he goes to work for Alvin Bragg, where he would go on to lead a case against Trump for Bragg. On this day, you've got Wade on the phone with the White House the entire day. DOJ appoints Garland. Colangelo says, I'm leaving what I assume is a dream job for any person to be number 3 at DOJ. I'm leaving DOJ and going to work for Alvin Bragg in New York. And then it's, miraculously, he's the one that goes on to lead the case there against Trump.
Wow. Is this all connected, Greg?
Look, I don't think there's any coincidences in life. And
wow.
The fact that, and Wade can't recall anything. There's, this massive case of amnesia but for him and his boss, but he can't tell us what they talked about. But you can look at the connections here. And let me talk about a different date. And I quoted this in the committee. I'll post this later on X so your audience can see it. President Biden comes out on November 9th, and he is asked, this is before Trump announces that, which is on November 16th, I believe, or 15th. And Biden comes out on November 9th, 9 days before Garland is appointed, and says, we need to do whatever means necessary, whatever is allowed under the Constitution, we need to demonstrate that Trump will never take office.
Wow.
It's stunning. 9 days later, Garland goes into place. 9 days later, Colangelo is gone. 9 days later, Wade is on the phone for 8 hours with the White House.
8 hours, and you can't recall, is the biggest load of what, ladies and gentlemen, I've ever heard in my life. Oh, man, this is so awesome. Senator Dolezal, I just appreciate you so much. Here's what the last thing I want to ask you and leave our audience with a little bit of a taste of what's to come next. Can you give our audience something? Doesn't have to be necessarily exclusive. Obviously, I know you can't share certain things legally. What is, because everybody, I know you feel this, Senator Dolezal, everybody wants accountability. Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, came up with this huge bombshell that Obama architected the Russia collusion hoax. You've got all of these things that Biden, the auto pen. Is there, Fani Willis has been something that our audience specifically, and myself included, I think a lot of Americans want to see some accountability. What can we expect next? Is there going to be more testimony from her? Is there more investigation? Is there going to be actually some kind of charges that are brought against her office? Anything at all like that?
Yeah, so we don't have constitutional authority in the state Senate to bring charges against her. Impeachment can begin in the House. I believe there is a path that the House could impeach her. Criminal charges, that's something for the feds and the state. It's my understanding that she's received some inquiries from the DOJ. By the way, she said yesterday that Chairman Grassley had sent a letter asking for a lot of details around her use of grant funding. And she's like, I didn't respond to him. I didn't send anything in.
Well, I mean, Ashley Merchant had to sue her for public records.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine the waste. We covered that too, Senator Dolezal. And I was just, it doesn't make an ounce of sense. These are records that taxpayers pay for. They're open records. And I know you mentioned it briefly in the hearing, and she kind of dismissed it. And she went on a rant against Ashley Merchant, who I think is one of the most competent, professional, diligent attorneys, not only in Atlanta or in Fulton County, but I think, in the country, to be honest. And I love her commentary and her analysis, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, like it seems like she's always trying to avoid following the law in every aspect.
It's always someone else's fault. Here's the other thing about public money. We talked yesterday about this, and this gets to where we're going with the committee, where I'd like to see the committee go. Think about for a second, 2 days before, I believe she sent a letter to Brian Kemp, Brad Raffensperger, and Chris Carr, our governor, attorney general, secretary of state, on the 7th of February.
Right.
Where she basically sent a document retention notice. 2 days prior to that, on the 5th of February, Jeff DeSantis reaches out to Critical Mention and begins to negotiate a contract with Critical Mention, which is put in place at rapid speed within, I think, 4 days. They then begin tracking what's called the earned media value. So, I'm building some name ID by being here on your show, and the people would say that has value versus me having to go buy advertising, right?
Right.
You're on Fox News and CNN. That's obviously massive earned media. Jeff DeSantis who is her media operations director or something like that, is providing her direct information on a regular basis as to what the value of earned media was, and they were comparing that earned media value between the earned media value for her name, Fani Willis, and the earned media value for Fulton County District Attorney. He was providing PowerPoint reports that showed over $600 million of earned media that they received. And she would say it's because of all the great work she's doing. The reality is that the only reason anyone knows her name outside of Fulton County is because of this case. And I believe, it's my opinion, that they knew that they were going to begin this investigation. They began to track this earned media. And I think that they got drunk on it. I think that this was like, this is a massive name building, name recognition effort. She believed this was her legacy. I've been told that she had aspirations to run for higher office here in the state of Georgia. That obviously could play into it. So I think that the committee needs to look into that. I think the committee probably has some questions for Nathan Wade. Jeff DeSantis, Jeff DeSantis has direct ties. We got into this a little bit yesterday with a gentleman named Chris Huttman. And Huttman and DeSantis ran a company, and according to the website, still run a company called 2020 Strategies or 2020 Insight. Huttman also works for a company called Canal Media Partners. Canal Media Partners has a wholly owned subsidiary, it appears, called Media Buying and Analytics. Media Buying and Analytics was the largest expense of both the Biden and Harris 2020 and 2024 campaigns, to the tune of over $600 million.
Jeez.
If you look at this tie between DeSantis's business partner and direct activity with the White House on their campaigns, and this just becomes a web that you've got to kind of unravel and get to the bottom of. I think we went a long way yesterday to beginning to unravel, at least to some extent, this web that they've weaved.
Thank you so much for sharing that, man. That is so amazing. So just to kind of sum that up in kind of layman's terms, essentially she was on a personal branding mission to elevate her status, elevate her publicity, elevate her brand, AKA Fani Willis. And so that could basically increase her career opportunities, revenue, et cetera, at the behest, at the cost of Fulton County taxpayers, correct?
Yes, this was a $10,000 annual expense. And I think I mentioned, I know I mentioned this yesterday. I think I mentioned it earlier on your show. The first time this was paid through the typical county check writing process, if you remember, I put those voucher forms on the screen that she said she's never seen. She's been the DA for 5 years.
I don't recall. I've never seen this. I don't know. I don't trust you. She goes, I don't trust you.
Who approves my checks? I don't know anything.
I don't know. Yeah.
The second check was written from this secret account that apparently was leftover money from the former DA that she doesn't know how much money was in there. It's just really, Cowser accurately described this as the Wild West. And it is the Wild West. And you got a sense of the ringleader of the Wild West. And you can imagine an office ran by an individual with that kind of temperament. And you can imagine, I believe, Amanda Timpson. I believe that
I do too, 100%.
When she asked a question, I believe she was railroaded, because I saw yesterday the personality type and the narcissistic nature of someone who would be a real piece of work of a boss to work for.
Yeah. Okay. This is so fascinating. I love all of this. What are the next steps? What happens next? So we have all this information. We have all this data. We can prove foulness on a broad spectrum of issues and aspects of her career, her office, Fulton County District Attorney's Office. What happens next? Are we going to get more hearings? Is she going to face consequences, Senator Dolezal?
I think we will certainly see more hearings. The state of Georgia, I believe, needs to rewrite specific laws to rein in these prosecutors. I think we need to greater empower our oversight commission that we have for district attorneys. It seems like it's basically impossible to get any sort of discipline brought before these DAs in that mechanism. I think that we need to look at our funding for her office from a state level, and then look everybody outside of of the state Senate, and specifically I mean the feds and any sort of local law enforcement. They have their own considerations that aren't part of the purview of our committee. But yes, we will have more hearings. We will continue to do this work. Look, she grandstanded yesterday and said that she wasn't going to be intimidated. We're not intimidated. We're going to continue to get to the bottom of this. We're on a fact-finding mission.
I love that. I love hearing that. Is she going to testify again, or is she done?
That's going to, I think Chairman Cowser needs to dig in a little bit. I was acting chairman for one day. He's done a good job.
I would love to see Cowser question her. I would love to see, because I don't think, I think she seemed to have a certain serpentine animus towards you, but I feel like Cowser has this sort of grandfatherly temperament, and his ethos and background kind of garners a certain, like, even though you might not like this, at the very least, you got to just respect your elders. You know what I mean? I would love to see Kauser, but I know it was like pulling teeth to get her in there today, right?
We took the case all the way to the Supreme Court. She kept lamenting the fact that we're running for office. I'm thinking to myself, lady, we tried to get you in here a year and a half ago, but you fought us in court. We won our court case last December.
Right.
She appealed it to the Supreme Court. And so it's her own fault that we're here in the middle of campaign season. Can I tell you something funny, though?
Please.
So she's like, whining about the fact that we're running for office. And literally during the hearing, her campaign team sent out a fundraising email calling on her supporters to make it the biggest day of Fani fundraising ever. So
what a hypocrite.
It's just off the charts.
Oh, just like all of these Democrats. I mean, every single one of them. I've said this many, many times. When a tree breathes, carbon dioxide comes out. When a human being breathes, oxygen comes out. But when a Democrat breathes, raw sewage pollutes the earth. That's my catchphrase, Senator Dolezal.
I have to use that at some point in time.
Yeah, it's a little long. I got to cut it down, but brevity, I think I need to make it a little more concise. But yeah, that's my thing.
I'll tell you the one that I like. The saying that I like is "a bit dog barks."
Yeah,
that's what you saw yesterday. You saw a lot of bark from a dog that's been bit, and she's been bit by Judge Bernie, Judge McAfee, by Judge Shakira Ingram. And then yesterday, I'll tell you what she didn't like about me. She didn't like the fact that I'm not a lawyer, and that her lawyer had to sit there and answer a bunch of questions from a guy that she just thinks is beneath her.
You could sense that. And I think that you extrapolated her unprofessionalism in a very visceral way. I mean that sincerely. I think that everybody already saw what happened in the disqualification hearing. We all saw how she stormed in and she acted essentially a fool, proving that she has no business being anywhere near a court of law. But what you did yesterday is, it's kind of the same thing that happened with this lady at Target. She didn't give in. She didn't give the response that you didn't give the response that Fani wanted. She wanted you to engage with her. She wanted you to show some kind of reaction to her QAnon comments. I mean, these were some of the most vile, despicable things she was saying. Oh, I know you guys want to create your little QAnon committee and daddy needs to oversee black people. I mean, she was making this like some sort of like 1945, racial, a trial about a rival of races, which it had nothing to do with that. I said this in my show the other day, Senator Dolezal, I'd love your comment. The same thing with Kamala. The same thing. It's like, well, why did America not vote for Kamala? Well, they must be misogynist because she's a woman. No, actually, it's because you're unqualified. Well, no, they must be racist because she's black, which she just adopted at the last second. No, actually, it's because you're not qualified. You can't even put 6 sentences together. And so I love the way you carried yourself. I think at first I was frustrated, I'll be honest, because I was like, man, she's just railroading this entire hearing, turning it into a PR campaign. But guess what? I think that playing her game, she wins. And what you did is you stood your ground and you said, you know what, I'm just going to stick to what our mission is, what our agenda is. And you can act any way you want. And I'm not going to interrupt you because it's great TV and it just shows the world who you truly are. Hey, Senator Dolezal, I took a lot of your time. I just want to say thank you so much for being here on our show. Is there anything you want to leave? I want to give you the floor before we go, and also let our audience know where they can go to support you, where they can go to reach out to you. Is there anything that you want to say before we wrap up here?
Yeah, I would just say at a macro level, man, I believe we're in a fight to save America. And you saw on display yesterday the world of the neo-Marxists and the collectivists. She made the accusation, you guys are trying to divide people. There's no more divisive person I've ever sat across a room from in my 47-year life than Fani Willis.
Do you see the top of the screen, Senator Dolezal? It says, make common sense go viral. That's our mission, to combat the woke media and Democrats who lie all the time and make comments. So you're right on our mission, aligned.
Yeah, I think we're in a fight to save America. I think the fight to save America actually starts right here in Georgia, and we're going to continue to press on. And it's been a pleasure being with you here today. If you maybe throw my X on the screen for your viewers, if you don't mind, when you
100%.
continue to post information from the hearing yesterday, so people can follow along and get a little bit more of a data dump as to what exactly all that we've uncovered.
I'll do even one better. I'm going to put his entire X profile in the pinned comment and in the description down below, as well as his website. Senator Greg Dolezal, it was an absolute pleasure having you with us, and best of luck. And we look forward to more that you bring to the table. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend. Great to see you.
All right. We'll see you soon.